we take the view of, we'll do a very, very brief visual inspection of the electrics, and you know, but beyond that, then we say, look, we're not doing any testing, any checks. You know, you should get a professional to inspect it before you buy. But you go a bit further than that, I think, don't you?
Yeah, we go way further. We open panels.
Well, we're required by code.
Yeah, we have to open panels.
We open up the electrical panel. Well, we have to take the dead front cover off, and then look inside that electrical panel to see, and we check for you know, if there's signs of a fire, water damage, miswiring, animals getting in there. Okay, and we find a lot of issues inside those panels, and we have to take those covers off, provided it is safe to do so. You know, and the ideal world is, according to code, we should have, you know, 3 feet each side, 6 foot out, right? And we very rarely get that. And a lot of times we're trying to take these covers off, and in situations where you probably shouldn't be. You know, certainly if you're standing in water, we're not going to take it off. But that is a general requirement by New York State and ASHI also, to remove the cover.
Standards of practice.
Yep.
And so would you go any further and do any testing of the cabling, the wiring within the walls and floors and ceilings? I mean, do you use meters or anything like that to test?
We test ground fault interrupters. You know, we've got a little tester. You plug in, you push the button, see if it trips it. But we don't get into actual checking of you know, how many ohms it takes to, you know, for a run or anything like that, or amperage or anything like that. We'll look at in the panels. We'll look for overfused wires. If you know, you're running a 20 amp breaker on a 14 gauge wire, obviously you're overfused, so that's a potential fire hazard. We'll look for double tap breakers where you have you know, two branch circuits on an undesignated breaker, not designated for 2-wire installation. We look for a lot of stuff like that. You know, frayed wires in the box. As John said, we look for insect damage. We look for animal, you know, rodent damage, rust. And a lot of times we find that you'll have water tracking in from the masthead. It'll get inside the insulator and run down the wires inside the cabling into the box. So a lot of times we'll open up a panel and you'll see rust and corrosion all over all the breakers, including the main breaker. So that's stuff that we look for and we call out.
Yeah. Plus, we also have those little testers that go in the outlets to see if they're grounded or not. Right. You know, that's about it.
Yeah, we don't.
Go ahead, Wes.
We don't test arc fault interrupters because a lot of times with the arc fault interrupters, they're basically for bedrooms, offices, and, you know, rooms in the house. We don't know what kind of electrical equipment's connected to it, computers, medical equipment. So we won't trip those to test them. So that's one thing that we won't do. Whereas with the GFIs, we will check them because they're in like laundry rooms, kitchens, where we have control over what they're cutting the circuit to.
Right. The caveat I have is when we do flood houses, that say you had 4 feet of water in the house, right, which happens quite often during major storm, first like Hurricane Sandy. You know, we should have changed all that wiring in the house that got affected by flooding. Okay. A lot of people didn't do that properly, and then we might have what's called the third-party electrical inspection come in, and they just do kind of a visual assessment. So on a house that we know has been underwater, we might occasionally remove an outlet cover or a switchblade cover to see if that wiring has been changed out properly, see if there's any rust and corrosion behind it. Generally, we don't go that far, but in those flood houses, we are really raising our level of inspection. Just be careful.
It always presents a fire hazard. You know, those wires start corroding, they can pull out, they can pull away, they can cause a short, and then now you have a real problem.
Yep.
We can't hear you, Andrew. Can't hear you. Andrew, we can't hear you, I'm afraid. Oh, okay, we can't hear him. He's not.
He'll come back.
He'll come back. Alan, I mean, what do you do when you're doing an electrical review of a property?
It's quite straightforward, but what I do, it's similar to what you were saying before. I mean, I want to check the electrical system. Is it earth? Basic things like that. You want to see, is it a new installation? We try to stick to, in the UK, we have regulations, building regulations, and there's certain things. I mean, it changes, God, every year, but there's certain aspects you should be looking out for, and whether it conforms or not to. But beyond that, it's just advising them either it looks okay or it doesn't look okay. But either way, get it checked. That's. I mean, if it's more a case of if it's obviously, you know, it's shot, it's no good. You're telling them, look, you're gonna have to have a complete rewire here. If it looks good, you say, you know, it looks okay, but get it checked by an expert. That's what I tend to stick with, and it's not an area I venture into too much.
Yeah. And what about
Am
heating
I
systems?
back?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're back.
You're back.
You're back.
You're back.
Yeah. There you go.
Right, I wanted to ask a question. I've just been out on a survey today, and I've had a nice drive. I've gone to the estate agents or the realtor. I've picked up the keys. It's an empty house, and I've done my inspection and taken my time. I was probably there about 5 or 6 hours. It was a big house. A lot of properties I go to, 50% perhaps, are empty properties, or I might go to a property and the owner is there. Now, I believe, and I know the answer to this, but you guys do it completely differently. And I know a lot of the surveyors that are watching this recording will be very interested in how you do an inspection from start to finish.
Well, I mean, I'll just start off by saying that I know this is kind of an amazing point for you guys. We'll have, before COVID, this is all pre-COVID, right?
Yes.
You would have, say, the two buyers, right? If say it's a husband and wife, you could have both sets of their parents, right? So now you're up to 6 people. You could have the brother-in-law who's an electrical guru, somebody else is a heating guy. You could have a friend. You could have, and the listing and the selling agent, including the sellers. You could have a trail of maybe 10 to 12 people at times following you through this house. And so you're running this parade around trying to do your whole inspection and keep everybody organized and keep it. And you do get distracted very easily because people want to pull you to this room. People start running water over here. And to us, when I started, this is just how we did it. And it became kind of second nature. And I know when we had the discussion with you guys get kind of amazed that we were operating like this. And now post-COVID or in the middle of this COVID, we are operating similar to you, where we're having very few people in the house, if any at all. And I know, Les, I learned again from your dad about how to kind of control people and run around the house. And it's definitely a learned skill you have to have, right? I mean, it's an amazing process. So if you don't get that concept, you're in trouble. Go ahead, Les.
Yeah, I basically, I kind of like run them ragged. I say, yeah, you can follow me, no problem. And in my mind, I'm saying, if you can keep up. So I purposely will like start detouring all across, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm going to go downstairs. Can't deal with it.
There's a lot of times you can figure out how to lose a person. Oh yeah, come with me, and you just get going, and then they lose interest after the first couple of minutes, most. But Alan, we were talking about this prior to everybody else coming on about having a parade of people with you.
Yeah, I find usually what happens, this is what I tell a lot of new inspectors, is we got to be very careful when you voice your opinion and when you start talking, because if you're not comfortable, if you don't know what you're speaking about, it might come back to hurt you. And they like to test you. And if they start asking questions and you can prove that you know what you're doing and you're confident in your abilities, they will generally back off and leave you alone. Okay. But as far as us, if I have to go into a crawl space or Wes goes into a crawl space, if they see us in there for 20 minutes and they come out, we have our, we're covered, we have our face mask on, our Tyvek suit. It's something about over here where they actually see you working and they appreciate it, versus they're sitting in the living room. We come back after an hour and a half to say, hey, this is what I found in the crawl space. They don't know you've been down there for 20 minutes. So that part is good. But you're right, trailing them around you is the whole time is bad. And we've been doing a lot, just like you guys recently, where we get the keys and we go in, and it's kind of interesting. It's definitely a different dynamic.
It's nice.
Yeah, I prefer it actually.
I mean, I suppose from my point of view, the thing is that I want to be able to think about the property afterwards when I come away, look at my photos, look at my notes, and then give a considered opinion once I've had that chance to let the information settle. But I guess that with you've got everybody and their uncle and their brother and their sister all crowding around you, that they're expecting you to give them an opinion immediately.
Pretty much.
Some guys actually do the report right there at the end of the inspection, print it out and give it to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which I think is a professional suicide.
Yeah, we give a basis of what we found. So, you know, we went through the house, and these are some of the potential issues we're going to be looking at and focusing. But you certainly, you know, read the final report when you get it. And this is just kind of a synopsis. And there are certainly items that will come up maybe later on. Like you said, if we look at a photo, and all of a sudden you say, you know, I don't think I remember seeing that when I was at the inspection. Let me zoom in a little bit now.
Yep.
I just had that happen recently. You know, well, you didn't tell me about this, and say, well, you know, it came up as a result of us, you know, analyzing everything later on. So it definitely puts you on the spot. You really need to know what you're talking about. You don't have that time for that, as Andrew calls it, that mature reflection to kind of, you know, sit there by yourself and take it all in and say, what am I looking at? Right? So.
When you're talking about the, yeah. Sorry, Les, carry on.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
You say when you're talking about the cross space, I assume you mean under the floors?
Correct.
Yeah, so, I mean that's another point I know you spoke about last time. I think some about 95% of the houses there are all timber, which over here it's quite the opposite. You know, 95 if not more % are masonry. I mean, is that something you come across some masonry, but not much? I mean, is that something you enjoy when you come across it? It's a novelty. It's.
I mean, for us, I would say yes. Go ahead, guys. Yep.
Yeah, I think being on Long Island, we don't run across much masonry construction. We do occasionally run across block construction. Most of the brickwork that we run across here is all fascia. That's over timber. But as you get into the city, and Les does a lot more work in the city, I'm sure you run across your brownstones. You run across a lot more masonry construction.
Yeah, I mean, the masonry keeps up. All our stick-built homes in there, they're all deteriorating because once the roofs go, they're falling. All the water's falling through the home. So that's what we got. And then they eventually get torn down, and then a big high-rise goes in.
So when you're dealing with damp issues, is it kind of predominantly it's damp coming from, it's rain, it's coming from above through the house? Because we often find the other with damp for us is coming from the ground. We live in a wet climate. We have houses, masonry built into these wet grounds, and that's where the moisture tends to come from.
We get that along the shoreline. The shorefront properties a lot will have hydrostatic pressure pushing the water up into the foundation. A lot of the crawl spaces that we do on the South Shore are pretty wet. Either hydrostatic pressure pushing the water into the crawl spaces, or a combination of hydrostatic pressure and rain runoff. So we do run across it, maybe not to the scale that you do, but we do have it along the shorelines. Some areas do have high water tables, so we'll run across it occasionally, like Smithtown area, a couple of areas out on the North Shore. Even though it's a higher elevation, we do have higher water tables that create damp problems, as you call it.
And the other biggest one for us, I think, is ventilation. We have a lot of properties that aren't well ventilated, or they're upgraded and they're insulated, and they just don't breathe very well. So you get a lot of trapped moisture in the building, condensation. I mean, is that an issue you come across a lot?
I think we get our fish, yeah.
Yeah, in the older buildings, I was going to say, you know, they weren't insulated, you know, as you say, that well. So we had natural ventilation. The newer building codes all required us now to really spray foam the insulation in and make them really tight. So we have to add mechanical ventilation. And this is something that's becoming more prevalent now as a result of the building codes for maybe the last 2 years. So we're going to start seeing a lot more mechanical ventilation, without a doubt. And hopefully we're going to find out that the spray foam maybe 10 years from now is not a problem, or maybe it is a problem. We're spraying it right to the roofs in a lot of houses, right? So
the floors in some houses, and
Yeah.
damp areas.
The one problem that I'm seeing now with all the foreclosure homes is they're closed up for such a long time. Sometimes I go into houses that are closed up for 5 years, 2 years. All you have to do is be closed up for like a nice hot summer over here, and you got mold growing like crazy. So all these foreclosure homes, they're trying to come up with ideas to get ventilation through the house, but still keep it secure so nobody's running in, cutting stuff out of the house, copper, wire, and all other stuff.
That's really interesting what you mentioned there about spray foam, because it's a hot topic here. You know, as a surveyor, you know, it's like it's the holy grail. You go up into the attic and you see spray foam, and it's it's fantastic because you can sort of kill this. Nobody should buy this house because it's got spray foam on there. Is it demonized in the same way?
No. I mean,
think quite the opposite. Yeah.
Some manufacturers say it does affect the warranty for a roof shingle product. Other ones are fine with it depending on the type of material you're putting up. But I still personally would like to see some kind of airflow under that sheathing for that sheathing to breathe and the shingles to breathe. So I'm not quite sure. The disadvantage for us is we need to put those heating and cooling systems in a conditioned space, right, for the building, for the new energy code requirements. So people love to put them in the attic, and now as a result, you got to spray foam the sheathing. So that definitely is a deal killer for you, without a doubt. Where if you have spray foam up there, it's done.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There doesn't seem, it's a funny one as well, because I don't know how much research there is into it, but there's been a few scare stories, and it's been like with a lot of products, it comes on the market and you get a load of fellas who'll go do it cheaply and they'll just spray every roof whether it should be in there or not, and then you get problems, you get rot forming, and then these horror stories feed into everyone's mindset then, and they think, no, this stuff's terrible. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that the products are fine. You get people doing it cheaply and they do it badly, and I think sometimes that's where the problem lies.
Yeah,
But
That's
whole
going
other
to be the
discussion.
same thing as the stucco foam, the ethos. When it first came out, they thought it was the greatest thing. Then they started having some water issues, and then they fine-tuned it. So I agree with it could be great, it could be a problem. It's got to be done right. It'll be fine-tuned.
Well, you also have your open and closed cell foam, which is, you don't know which one they're putting in there.
No.
They put the wrong foam in. Now you got another issue.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Well,
Listen, guys,
cheap ones going in all the time. Don't worry.
Yeah, true.
I think it's been really interesting, and we could talk for. I'm sure we could talk for hours, couldn't we?
I thought we were in for 5 hours. We're not.
These guys want to eat dinner.
I know we can eat lunch.
I just ate my lunch. That's why I went off. Sorry.
Well, I'm conscious Andrew's still got to drive home. He's got a 2-hour drive home. Mind you, in his car, it's a fast car. So have you got enough electricity? You got enough charge, Andrew?
I have 64%.
That's all right. There you go. You've got a good charge. But that was fascinating, and I'm sure that there's something we could perhaps do again, hopefully, in the near future. And I'm sure our members are going to be interested to watch the recording of this. Because there's a lot of really useful information and so many other things that we could cover, I think. So if you guys are up for doing it again at some point in the not too distant future, then we'd love to.
Oh, without a doubt.
Sure, definitely.
I know we've mentioned this about, we work on a lot of elevated houses, and Andrew got to see one. So I think that would be, we could even find a way to get that working where we could show you something of what we do. Actually lifting the houses 10 feet out of off the ground, putting in a brand new foundation system, bringing it back down. I mean, we do that all the time, so that would be kind of interesting.
Oh, that would be really interesting. Well, there we go. So that's a date.
We'll work that out.
We could do that because we can share the screen, so we can do that. So let's make a date for that one as our next one. We'll look forward to that. But meanwhile, thank you for that. That was really, really interesting, and it's just fascinating to learn about how you guys work. And we'll look forward to doing it soon. So have a good day.
You too.
All right.
Eat well, keep safe. And
you too, guys.
Keep all those people out the houses.
We're trying. Thanks, guys.
All
right, take care.
Hey,
Thanks very much.
Be well.
All right, guys.
And you. Cheers.